Hi, everybody. Welcome to the channel. I'm Jim. I recently did a shootout video where I compared about 5 different translations of the Iliad and did a brief reading, and we kind of like had a showdown, talked about our favorites, and that video seemed to get a lot of notice and attention. People liked it. I thought I would like to do the same thing for the Odyssey of Homer. And the reason for doing this is not only because I'm actually currently reading the Emily Wilson translation of the Odyssey, but I'm getting stoked because the film adaptation of the Odyssey is coming out to theaters this July. I think July 17th is when it launches. I'm planning to see it. I'm getting excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. Even if they botch it, I still think it's going to be a good time. It'll be eye candy, if nothing else. I've been reading Homer. I'm into Homer. I've got a whole bunch of translations to share with you. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I have 5 or 6 translations of the Odyssey here in the house. So let's get right down to it. Circle the wagons. We're going to have a showdown here. Different translators. What's their take on the Odyssey? All right, are you ready? We're going to read the first page or so of the poem, and we'll just take them in. I don't even know if this is exact chronological order, but it's kind of close. We're going to start with the Samuel Butler prose translation, which is in the first edition of the Great Books of the Western World. He translated both the Iliad and the Odyssey. This is in prose. You'll also notice that the god names are Romanized. Okay, let's start. This is prose. Samuel Butler. Listen carefully. We're going to do each of these in turn. This is the very beginning of the Odyssey. Tell me, O Muse, of that ingenious hero who traveled far and wide after he had sacked the famous town of Troy. Many cities did he visit, and many were the nations with whose manners and customs he was acquainted. Moreover, he suffered much by sea while trying to save his own life and bring his men safely home. But do what he might, he could not save his men, for they perished through their own sheer folly in eating the cattle of the sun god Hyperion. So the god prevented them from ever reaching home. Tell me, too, about all these things, O daughter of Jove, from whatsoever source you may know them. So now all who escaped death in battle or by shipwreck had got safely home except Ulysses, and he, though he was longing to return to his wife and country, was detained by the goddess Calypso, who had got him into a large cave and wanted to marry him. But as years went by, there came a time when the gods settled that he should go back to Ithaca. Even then, however, when he was among his own people, his troubles were not yet over. Nevertheless, all the gods had now begun to pity him, except Neptune, who still persecuted him without ceasing and would not let him get home. Now Neptune had gone off to the Ethiopians, who are at the world's end and lie in 2 halves, the one looking west and the other east. He had gone there to accept a hecatomb of sheep and oxen and was enjoying himself at his festival. But the other gods met in the house of Olympian Jove, and the sire of gods and men spoke first. At that moment he was thinking of Aegisthus, who had been killed by Agamemnon's son Orestes. So he said to the other gods, "See now how men lay blame upon us, gods, for what is after all nothing but their own folly. Look at Aegisthus. He must needs make love to Agamemnon's wife unrighteously and then kill Agamemnon, though he knew it would be the death of him. For I sent Mercury to warn him not to do either of these things, inasmuch as Orestes would be sure to take his revenge when he grew up and wanted to return home. Mercury told him this in all good will, but he would not listen, and now he is paid for everything in full." That's Samuel Butler. Let's turn to the Odyssey prose translation by E.V. Rieu. And this is, I think, was the first Penguin Classic. Not in this cover. This is the second series. I call it the second series. The first series had one of a plain text cover. But this was the very first Penguin Classic. So it's got historical value that way. Again, a prose translation by E.V. Rieu, Penguin Classics. The hero of the tale which I beg the muse to help me tell is that resourceful man who roamed the wide world after he had sacked the holy citadel of Troy. He saw the cities of many peoples and he learnt their ways. He suffered many hardships on the high seas in his struggles to preserve his life and bring his comrades home. But he failed to save those comrades in spite of all his efforts. It was their own sin that brought them to their doom, for in their folly they devoured the oxen of Hyperion, the sun, and the gods saw to it that they should never return. This is the tale I pray the divine muse to unfold to us. Begin it, goddess, at whatever point you will. All the survivors of the war had reached their homes by now, and so put the perils of battle in the sea behind them. Odysseus alone was prevented from returning to the home and wife he longed for by that powerful goddess, the nymph Calypso, who wished him to marry her and kept him in her vaulted cave. Not even when the rolling seasons brought in the year which the gods had chosen for his homecoming to Ithaca was he clear of his troubles and safe among his friends. Yet all the gods were sorry for him, except Poseidon, who pursued the heroic Odysseus with relentless malice till the day when he reached his own country. Poseidon, however, was now gone on a visit to the distant Ethiopians, the farthest outpost of mankind, half of whom live where the sun goes down and half where he rises. He had gone to accept the sacrifice of bulls and rams, and there he sat and enjoyed the pleasures of the feast. Meanwhile, the rest of the gods had assembled in the palace of Olympian Zeus, and the father of men and gods opened a discussion among them. He had been thinking of that nobleman, Aegisthus, whom Agamemnon's son Orestes killed, to his own great renown, and it was with Aegisthus in his mind that Zeus now addressed the immortals. What a lamentable thing is it that What a lamentable thing it is that men should blame the gods and regard us as the source of their troubles, when it is their own wickedness that brings them sufferings worse than any which destiny allots them. Consider Aegisthus, who flouted destiny by stealing Agamemnon's wife and murdering her husband when he came home, though he knew the ruin this would entail, since we ourselves had sent Hermes, the keen-eyed giant slayer, to warn him neither to kill the man nor to make love to his wife. For Orestes, as Hermes pointed out, was bound to avenge Agamemnon as soon as he grew up and thought with longing of his home. Yet with all his friendly counsel, Hermes failed to dissuade him, and now Aegisthus has paid the final price for all his sins. That's E.V. Rieu, another prose translation. Let's move on to the second edition of the Great Books of the Western World. This is the verse translation by Richmond Lattimore. Tell me, muse, of the man of many ways, who was driven far journeys after he had sacked Troy's sacred citadel. Many were they whose cities he saw, whose minds he learned of, many the pains he suffered in his spirit on the wide sea, struggling for his own life and the homecoming of his companions. Even so, he could not save his companions. Hard though he strove to, they were destroyed by their own wild recklessnesses. Fools who devoured the oxen of Helios, the sun god, and he took away the day of their homecoming. From some point here, goddess, daughter of Zeus, speak and begin our story. Then all the others, as many as fled sheer destruction, were at home now, having escaped the sea and the fighting. This one alone, longing for his wife and his homecoming, was detained by the queenly nymph Calypso, bright among goddesses in her hallowed caverns, desiring that he should be her husband. But when in the circling of the years that very year came, in which the gods had spun for him the time of homecoming to Ithaca, not even then was he free of his trials, nor among his own people. But all the gods pitied him, except Poseidon. He remained relentlessly angry with godlike Odysseus until his return to his own country. But Poseidon was gone now to visit the far Ethiopians most distant of men who lived divided, some at the setting of Hyperion, some at his rising, to receive a hecatomb of bulls and rams. There he sat at the feast and took his pleasure. Meanwhile, the other Olympian gods were gathered together in the halls of Zeus. First among them to speak was the father of gods and mortals, for he was thinking in his heart of stately Aegisthus, whom Orestes, Agamemnon's far-famed son, had murdered. Remembering him, he spoke now before the immortals. Oh, for shame, how the mortals put the blame upon us gods, for they say evils come from us, but it is they, rather, who by their own recklessness win sorrow beyond what is given. As now lately beyond what was given, Aegisthus married the wife of Atreus' son and murdered him on his homecoming, though he knew it was sheer destruction, for we ourselves had told him, sending Hermes, the mighty watcher, Argifontes, not to kill the man, nor court his lady for marriage, for vengeance would come on him from Orestes, son of Atreides, whenever he came of age and longed for his own country. So Hermes told him, but for all his kind intention, he could not persuade the mind of Aegisthus. And now he is paid for everything. That's a verse translation by Richmond Lattimore from second edition Great Book Set. Let's move on to Robert Fitzgerald, and I have this in a Franklin Library Leatherette edition. This is a verse translation. Copyrighted originally 1961. Franklin Library edition is 1979. Here we go. Robert Fitzgerald, you're next. Sing in me, muse, and through me tell the story of that man skilled in all ways of contending, a wanderer, harried for years on end, after he plundered the stronghold on the proud height of Troy. He saw the townlands and learned the minds of many distant men and weathered many bitter nights and days in his deep heart at sea, while he fought only to save his life, to bring his shipmates home. But not by will nor valor could he save them, for their own recklessness destroyed them all. Children and fools they killed and feasted on the cattle of Lord Helios the sun, and he who moves all day through heaven took from their eyes the dawn of their return. Of these adventures, Muse, daughter of Zeus, tell us in our time, lift the great song again. Begin when all the rest who left behind them headlong death in battle or at sea had long ago returned, while he alone still hungered for home and wife. Her ladyship Calypso clung to him in her sea-hollowed caves, a nymph, immortal and most beautiful, who craved him for her own. And when long years and seasons wheeling brought around that point of time ordained for him to make his passage homeward, trials and dangers even so attended him, even in Ithaca, near those he loved. Yet all the gods had pitied Lord Odysseus, all but Poseidon, raging cold and rough against a brave king till he came ashore at last on his own land. But now that god had gone far off among the sunburnt races, most remote of men, at earth's two verges, in sunset lands and lands of the rising sun, to be regaled by smoke of thigh bones burning, haunches of rams and bulls, 100-fold. He lingered, delighted, at the banquet side. In the bright hall of Zeus upon Olympus, The other gods were all at home, and Zeus, the father of gods and men, made conversation, for he had meditated on Aegisthus, dead by the hand of Agamemnon's son Orestes, and spoke of his thought aloud before them all. My word, how mortals take the gods to task. All their afflictions come from us, we hear, and what of their own failings? Greed and folly double the suffering in the lot of man. See how Aegisthus, for his double portion, stole Agamemnon's wife and killed the soldier on his homecoming day. And yet Aegisthus knew that his own doom lay in this. We gods had warned him, sent down Hermes Ergefontes, our most observant courier, to say, don't kill the man, don't touch his wife, or face a reckoning with Orestes the day he comes of age and wants his patrimony. Friendly advice. But would Aegisthus take it? Now he has paid the reckoning in full. That's Robert Fitzgerald, Franklin Library. 2 more to go. Let's go for another first translation. And this is from the Penguin Classics Deluxe edition of the Odyssey, translated by Robert Fagles. Here we go. Sing to me of the man, Muse, the man of twists and turns, driven time and again off course, once he had plundered the hallowed heights of Troy. Many cities of men he saw and learned their minds. Many pains he suffered, heartsick on the open sea, fighting to save his life and bring his comrades home. But he could not save them from disaster. Hard as he strove, the recklessness of their own ways destroyed them all. The blind fools, they devoured the cattle of the sun, and the sun god wiped from sight the day of their return. Launch out on his story, Muse, daughter of Zeus. Start from where you will. Sing for our time, too. By now, all the survivors, all who avoided headlong death, were safe at home, escaped the wars and waves. But one man alone, his heart set on his wife and his return. Calypso, the bewitching nymph, the lustrous goddess, held him back, deep in her arching caverns, craving him for a husband. But then, when the wheeling seasons brought the year around, that year spun out by the gods when he should reach his home, Ithaca, though not even there would he be free of trials, even among his loved ones. Then every god took pity, all except Poseidon. He raged on, seething against the great Odysseus till he reached his native land. But now Poseidon had gone to visit the Ethiopians worlds away, Ethiopians off at the farthest limits of mankind, a people split in two, one part where the sun god sets and part where the sun god rises. There Poseidon went to receive an offering, bulls and rams by the hundred. Far away at the feast, the sea lord sat and took his pleasure. But the other gods, at home in Olympian Zeus's halls, met for full assembly there, and among them now the father of men and gods was first to speak, sorely troubled, remembering handsome Aegisthus, the man Agamemnon's son, renowned Orestes, killed. Recalling Aegisthus, Zeus harangued the immortal powers. Ah, how shameless the way these mortals blame the gods. From us alone, they say, come all their miseries. Yes, but they themselves with their own reckless ways compound their pains beyond their proper share. Look at Aegisthus now, above and beyond his share. He stole Atrides' wife. He murdered the warlord coming home from Troy, though he knew it meant his own total ruin. Far in advance, we told him so ourselves, dispatching a guide, the giant killer, Hermes. Don't murder the man, he said. Don't court his wife. Beware, revenge will come from Orestes, Agamemnon's son. That day he comes of age and longs for his native land. So Hermes warned, with all the goodwill in the world. But would Aegisthus' hardened heart give way? Now he pays the price, all at a single stroke. And finally, the newest translation of the lot, Emily Wilson. Here we go. This is published, by the way, by Norton. Tell me about a complicated man. Muse, tell me how he wandered and was lost when he had wrecked the holy town of Troy, and where he went and who he met, the pain he suffered on the sea, and how he worked to save his life and bring his men back home. He failed, and for their own mistakes, they died. They ate the sun god's cattle, and the god kept them from home. Now, goddess, child of Zeus, tell the old story for our modern times. Find the beginning. All the other Greeks who had survived the brutal sack of Troy sailed safely home to their own wives, except this man alone. Calypso, a great goddess, had trapped him in her cave. She wanted him to be her husband. When the year rolled round in which the gods decreed he should go home to Ithaca, his troubles still went on. The man was friendless. All the gods took pity, except Poseidon's anger never ended until Odysseus was back at home. But now the distant Ethiopians who lived between the sunset and the dawn were worshiping the sea god with a feast. 100 cattle and 100 rams. There sat the god, delighting in his banquet. The other gods were gathered on Olympus, in Father Zeus's palace. He was thinking of fine, well-born Aegisthus, who was killed by Agamemnon's famous son, Orestes. He told the deathless gods, "This is absurd, that mortals blame the gods. They say we cause their suffering, but they themselves increase it by folly." So Aegisthus overstepped. He took the legal wife of Agamemnon, then killed the husband when he came back home, although he knew that it would doom them all. We gods had warned Aegisthus. We sent down perceptive Hermes, who flashed into sight and told him not to murder Agamemnon or court his wife. Orestes would grow up and come back to his home to take revenge. Aegisthus would not hear that good advice, but now his death has paid all debts. And that is Emily Wilson. What are your thoughts? Which do you prefer? You might want to rank them in the comments. My first impression is I think my favorites, just from that passage, and again, it's unfair to only read a small passage like that. You got to look at the whole body of the work to render judgment. But I'll just give you some my quick takes. The Samuel Butler, I didn't like how he romanized the god names. I thought that was sort of a poor choice. The prose isn't too bad, but I preferred E.V. Rieu's prose translation of this passage. It had much better flow to it. I liked it a lot. The Richmond Lattimore verse translation is longer lines. It's rhythmically kind of interesting, but sometimes it felt like a little bit of a mouthful to read. The Emily Wilson that I just read was by far the most direct, maybe compressed a little bit, perhaps a little bit too much, but very easy to read, easy to follow. Probably easy to listen to, I would imagine. You let me know in the comments what you think. And then we've got the Robert Fitzgerald and the Robert Fagles. I like these two a lot. I might give the nod to the Robert Fitzgerald. I liked the flow of the lines. It felt like poetry to me. Fagles is good too. It's kind of hard to decide, but if you push me on it, I would say my favorite was the Robert Fitzgerald. What do you think? I should add that I'm currently reading the Emily Wilson. I'm really enjoying it. About halfway through, and I recommend it. I think it's very loose. I'll talk about this on another occasion when I get through the whole thing, probably before the film launches. But yeah, that was fun. A little shootout here on the translation corral. Let me know what your favorites are. It's always fun to kind of kick this around and see what people think. We all have different tastes, don't we? Yeah, if you let me also know in the comments if you're planning to see the film adaptation that's coming out in theaters, starring Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway and so on. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.